I took on this business because all throughout my years of college, I really just honed in on finding graphic design internships. And so, being a college student, I took on the opportunity, and from there, just started building like this portfolio. And at some point, it started winning awards too. It kind of just helped me build the agency side of things. So I would say, if anybody is listening and they believe in like destiny, I kind of feel like I'm fated to be in the graphic design space.
Welcome to Beating the Odds, the podcast about successful minority businesses that will inspire, educate, and inform you. Your host is Mike Dewey, entrepreneur and founder of Hidden Star, a 501c3 nonprofit that has helped hundreds of minority entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. Discover and celebrate minority business success with Beating the Odds.
Hello, and on the show today is Tammy Huynh, founder and president of the Creative Folks in Atlanta, Georgia. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mike, for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. And, you know, you live in Atlanta, Georgia. Your company's there. Did you grow up in the Atlanta area? Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up?
Yeah, pretty much spent a lot of my time here in Atlanta. Have a couple family members out in California, so we travel back and forth every now and then. But always loved Atlanta, and I decided, you know, if I were to have any type of business, it probably would be in Atlanta, a great city. So that's where I kept it at.
Were there entrepreneurs in your family? Did you know people? Were either of your parents entrepreneurs?
No. So the background in a lot of that, especially my childhood too, my parents are immigrants, Vietnamese immigrants to America. So I would say business in total, like I express this all the time to people that I talk to, just business in our culture is not very prominent. It's not actually encouraged just because in immigrant families, they want you to come here to the U.S. and make sure that you're stable. You're working like a stable job that is for sure going to provide you some type of income and stability. And I would assume that you would know too, entrepreneurship, and a lot of people listening, entrepreneurship is never really stable. It could be risky, especially in the beginning stages until you actually have a product or something of that sort. So I would say no, not very heavily influenced in my immediate family. But over the years, as I got older, I got a lot of, influence from outside family members. So like, say, uncles, cousins, or something of that sort who always had like these ideas for businesses. And some of them have started it. I don't know, I don't want to disclose all the success and all that stuff, but like they found some success there and they guided me, especially in my journey as well. And just on the business side of things, on how we got started, I kind of just had a passion for graphic design. I honestly wanted to start the Creative Folks off as a blog where we were talking about entrepreneurship and helping other, minority business owners in terms of like, okay, how can you get started on your freelance journey? And from there, it kind of just grew into like this huge brand that is beyond me. I didn't even know that it could even grow that far. I thought like I could end it within a year, but now we're like 5 years in. So yeah, I didn't have too much of immediate family influence, but they are definitely supportive of me, as of now. So I feel grateful for that.
So did you go to college? What did you study in school? Was there any formal background for what you're doing?
No, so no formal. That's one of the biggest perks, in my opinion, especially as a graphic designer. I've never went to school professionally for graphic design, nor did I go to school for business. I went to school actually to be a academic advisor for students, because in the area that I grew up, most of the time you saw a lot of kids didn't have the opportunity, or like they just didn't know how to start their college journey or even trade school journey. They just didn't know what to do. So I really wanted to go to school for that initially. So I did a lot of work in like psychology, more so in the academic space, education psychology. So that was my whole realm. By my senior year, I took on this business because all throughout my years of college, I really just honed in on finding graphic design internships. They kind of just came to me. In a sense, I was looking for them, but they also kind of just landed in my lap. And of course, I had the skill set, and they were paid internships, so I was blessed with that. And so, being a college student, I took on the opportunity, got paid for it and all that stuff. And from there, just started building like this portfolio. And at some point, it started winning awards too. And just that portfolio alone, it kind of just helped me build the agency side of things. So I would say, if anybody is listening and they believe in like destiny, I kind of feel like I'm fated to be in this graphic design space. Would I ever go back and like, work on like the psychology stuff? I think in the future. But as of right now, I'm really happy on this journey, and I'm super happy that I took on those internships when I was in college, because that was super helpful. And I graduated still continuing this whole design agency thing. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay. And so you had internships. What was your first real job when you got out of school?
Well, my first real job, out of college was actually in HR. I also built a couple of years, I want to say 4 years of HR professionalism. Like I just worked in HR. I worked for a staffing firm, and that, also bled into a little bit of marketing work while I was there. It was kind of, it was like one of those like early positions that they didn't know what they needed me to do. They kind of just needed someone to kind of come in and help with certain things like the admin side. And that grew into working on the HR side and then also working in marketing, which was my skill set. So kind of got a good mixture there, worked in there professionally for about, 3 years or so, and then continuing HR from there. But I still work in HR now while still running, the agency full time, all at the same time.
Wow. So you come out of school, you're working for the staffing agency, you have an idea because you've got a passion for graphic design. You turned out you're just really good at it. And so you started a graphic design agency there in Atlanta?
Yep. So right now we're a full functioning graphic design agency. We also work on a lot of community projects where we're working with local universities, even my alma mater, Georgia State, a couple of other universities in the area, working with their students, in particular their creative students, because that was my whole journey when I started the company, was that I wanted to be a blogger, but I didn't realize the work that it took to, I guess, make a blog work. So I had to find money somehow, or I had to make money. So that's why I opened the agency. But through that journey, we were able to partner with a lot of universities, a lot of local businesses, and teach not only workshops, but host panels. We were part of panels to help other creative students know, like, hey, this is a career and it's a journey that you can definitely do. In the past year or so, especially with the rise of like Asian hate crimes and stuff like that, we've been more focused on the Asian American community because, like I told you in the beginning, one of the biggest things in our culture is that, or especially in immigrant families, we don't work in creative fields. We just don't, because it's not quote unquote stable. But I have found a very comfortable space within that space, and I want to be able to teach other creators as well. Like, hey, it's a doable career, and you can definitely do really well in it. So that's where I stand on that.
So it seems like that. So you start the creative design firm. It seems like it was just you at the beginning, right? Doing creative stuff for money.
Yeah, so like I was saying, in my college years, I did a lot of graphic design internships, but on top of the design internships, I was also doing a little bit of freelance, like online. At that time, there was like a new platform where you be, a freelancer on there, and that's how I picked up a lot of clients. And even today, some of our biggest clients that are paying us like month to month and stuff like that, they have been my clients since I started freelancing in college. So I attribute that a lot to networking. But yeah, like I just picked up freelancing, and then over time that freelancing turned into like, okay, I need to start outsourcing and get more help, because if I can get more help to work on the actual design portion of things, that means I can bring in more business, more like a business development person. I can bring in quote unquote more sales while I have a team working on the design part, because I can't do both simultaneously and make like a good profit, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
Right. But it wasn't a company that required a lot of money to start.
I wouldn't say so. Like, I definitely am a advocate for, like you can definitely start with super low budget. But I realized over time, you definitely have to start investing into stuff, because if you don't, you can't really, like, you'll stay as a freelancer. Like if you really want to scale to agency, it's going to take a lot of other stuff too to invest into.
Was there any point in time early on when you wondered if the creative work would actually work, if the whole thing would work out?
I actually, when I was working as a freelancer, I hated working as a freelancer. So I told myself I would never work in an agency setting, nor would I ever open an agency, because the burnout that I felt from freelancing was terrible. So it's actually really funny to even be here in this circumstance. And I attribute a lot of that back to my clients. or like my partners too, because they've always told me like, hey, like I can't even find another designer that just does it at that same level or at least share the same vision. So I just really want you to do it. If you can just work on one more project, that would be great. And that one more project just kept on turning into like bigger projects. Like we started, and these are disclosable clients I could actually talk about. I mean, like I worked from Georgia Tech, which is in Atlanta. That moved up to working with, TEDx. I've worked with them as well. It just kept growing. So I was like, you know what? I think it's a matter of like maybe perspective. And like I was saying in the earlier question, just talking about like investments, like we started investing into things that makes the workflow a lot easier, which helped a lot of that burnout that I was facing. So I feel super happy with that positioning that I'm in right now.
So famous last words, I will never start an agency.
Yes. And here I am, right?
That's right. Now you got a successful agency. It's 5 years old, right?
Yeah, 5 years old. We have roughly about 5 teammates that work on the agency side of things. Then we have another side that works purely on content. And what that is like anywhere from like workshops or like if they're helping me plan the workshops out that we're partnering with our, schools or anything like that. They help me with that specifically. Maybe they don't have the design skill sets, but they have a passion for teaching the creative community. So we're making use of everybody's talent.
So how long did it take from the time you started it to the time you're profitable? Or it sounds like you could have been profitable right from the beginning.
And I attribute that to a lot of my own fault, because when I first started the business, like I told you, I really wanted it to be a blog, like something where I'm just teaching other creative people, hey, this is all the stuff that I did and you can do it too. Very happy-go-lucky. And then I realized, within that first year of really pushing for that, I was actually working a full-time job at that time while running that blog. So I had like a salary that was comfortable that helped me propel a lot of that stuff. So within that first year, we didn't even make any money. And I just kept it running. By the second year, I realized, okay, you know what? We have to start making some funds. And we, as in like myself, I was running the whole thing. And I had a few volunteers from college that were like, hey, I really like the mission. I really want to join up. So from there, I just had to start thinking of ways like, okay, like obviously we all have a graphic design skill. Let's open an agency side of things. So I definitely think if I started in the beginning as an agency, could have succeeded a lot faster. But I actually really like that slow roll only because that first year we developed so many networks and so many connections that led to bigger projects down the line that we didn't foresee, obviously. Like one of our biggest projects that we did recently was a coloring book. That was a connect that was made 3-4 years ago that we didn't even realize was even going to prosper into what it was. And that coloring book is highly successful. Like big celebrities like Michelle Kwan, the Bruce Lee Foundation, they have all recognized that coloring book. They all received a copy. Bunches of schools in the Atlanta area also received a version of that copy as well. And once again, that is attributed back to a connect that saw us back in 2018 when we started. They reached out to me and they said, hey, I've just been following you. And so I kind of wanted to reach out and see if you would be willing to work on this project. I said, yeah. And I've never connected with this person prior to that. So, I attribute that first year to a lot of networking and a lot of foundation building, if you could put it that way.
How did you get the word out when you first started? I mean, you had clients you were working on when you were an intern, right? And
right.
Then once you put your stake in the ground and opened an agency, how did you get the word
out? Once again, attributing a lot back to networking. Just people that I've met over time, I stay connected to them. Like I've never come into spaces, especially even now, 5 years in. Every time I meet somebody, whether it's like you or anybody else, I want to make sure I nurture that conversation and nurture that relationship. Not in a sense of like, I need to get a sale out of this, just more so like, hey, you're somebody that is interested in the things that we do. I'm interested in the things that you do. So let's stay connected. And if I'm putting in the effort and you are, then that's a very worthy connection to me. And just over time, just building that, I'm just impressed with the amount of like word of mouth, I would say. I reach this one person connects me to the next person and then the next person and then the next person. Eventually, I just feel like I'm connected everywhere and I have connects for all types of levels, especially in my HR professional space as well. Being connected to so many HR professionals and the very people that hire people for these big corporate companies, that has led into a lot of connects there too.
So, but now, I mean, you have social media, you have those connections. Are you using? Do you get a lot of new clients from social media? Do you do anything in that arena?
So we do have, obviously we do have the social medias because we're a millennial ran company, so social media is everything. We do have a lot of social medias and all across the board. I want to say that's collectively over 5,000 plus people connected, maybe 3 to 5,000 depending on, which platform you look. But, I wouldn't say we get a lot of clients from there though. That's the surprising part. And that's a market that we want to enter, like probably down the line. Our social media has always been resourceful, or it has always been about the audience that we wanted to reach in the beginning. The client side of things has a lot to do with word of mouth, just people that I knew, and referrals over time. So in the future, we really dive into the social media where, okay, we're targeting clients. I can imagine the business going even higher than that, because as of right now, we're not using any of our socials to really gather business. It's to build a persona. Which is our persona is like, hey, we're a fun millennial company. We do have this branding agency side of things, but we're all about creators. We want to partner with local companies, etc. And how can we be of service to you beyond the agency side? We really want to build a community, a culture. That's big for us here at the company.
Have you been 5 years in? A lot of success, people working for you, loyal clients. Have you been approached yet to sell your company?
A couple of times, especially the brand side of things. I don't know if they were really looking at the agency side, because I feel like there's a lot of agencies out there, but a lot of people were looking at us in terms of like our brand. They're like, oh, you're really connected in the community. We've been welcomed into many, many rooms where it's like, why are we even in the space right now? So it's really cool to be there. And they peeped into that and saw like, okay, this is something that we really want to invest into. But as of then, I did not sell the business, obviously, because I still run it.
So of all the things that have happened, is there anything that stands out as funny or interesting? What's the funniest thing that's happened to you since you started this thing?
I would say the funniest thing has to do with the clients. We run into a lot of clients who love to bargain, especially when we first started the agency. We really wanted to target startups, and we understand that startups, they may not have the highest budgets, they may not have a lot of money to work with us, and we were willing to compromise a little bit of that profit, but be able to help these businesses start. That was the best era of our company, because we ran into a lot of different personalities, a lot of different personas during that time, which really shaped the new customer persona. So if anything from this call, minority businesses and all that who are listening, I think that's an important message that I wish I knew at the beginning, was that my persona or my ideal customer, my ideal audience, that stuff changes as your company changes, because it's going to go through change. So we just met a lot of, I can't even describe all the scenarios, to be honest with you, but they're just really funny because they'll try to bargain, or like they just think like this is too much, versus when we are actually very affordable on the market when we first started. So now at a point where we may not be as affordable because we changed our customer profile, it's an interesting space to navigate, especially for those customers. So yeah.
If there's been one thing that's been most surprising to you, what's been the thing that surprised you the most about anything on this entrepreneurial journey of yours?
I think it would be just I would say it's the amount of information that's online. So like when I first started, every time I try to Google anything, everybody just has a million and one ways to answer the question, which I can understand from like a professional standpoint. You can't like guide people a certain way. Like you have to seek out a professional and stuff like that. But over time, I realized like using your network is probably one of the best things. And that's why I really suggest, like, for people who are just starting, that very first year, which is where I'm very happy that we started the way we did, even if we did not profit. But that very first year was built on networking. Like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. I don't know what the relationship is yet, but I would just love to be in network with you and just foster this relationship. And those people really helped me get a lot of things in our business done. Like, we finished a battle of a 2-year trademark. We just finished that battle. And it's all help from a network that I met from 2 years ago. And she did it. She worked with me through the entire thing from all the stages. that was probably the biggest help. When I went to Google, which is everybody's best friend, Google doesn't give you any type of answer. It just gives you the most vague thing. So my network is like my most valuable asset to me through this whole thing. And I encourage everybody to really build their network over time, of course.
Were there mentors for you? Did you along your journey since you started the company? Have there been people that other than the uncles that you talked about, people in business that have given you advice and that you turn to for guidance on when you come up against a problem?
Yep. I have a couple of mentors that specialize in different things. So I have specifically a mentor that works on like financial stuff. So like we talk specifically finance, and that's all that I really talk to them to. I have another one that's really based on business operations. Like, hey, I'm running into this thing with an employee, or like this contractor. What do you think I should do? Or like, in the social setting that we are, anything that you say on social media can come back against you. I wouldn't say that this person's attorney, more so of like, hey, this is my almost like my accountability partner. Like, hey, I talked to them about these issues that are going on socially. What should we do as a company? What do you think? And you as an ideal customer, what do you expect out of a company like mine? Do I respond? Do I not respond? Is it ethical to respond, not ethical to respond, something like that. So I have like very specific mentors for certain things, and that has helped me a lot too, because not going to one specific person for everything. I just don't believe in putting all your eggs in one basket. Like having one person know everything about the business is kind of crazy to me. So separating them has been my best decision in my business.
A lot of new entrepreneurs, especially in the minority business community, where the available pool of mentors is so shallow, sounds like you've been blessed with some real great mentors. Gosh, that's rare. I mean, we talk to a lot of people. It's really rare.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to give credit to them, especially for looking for a mentor. These people are not traditionally, I guess I would say, mentors. Like they don't use mentorship as a service. They don't sell it. These are just people in the business space that willingly took me on. So I will attribute it to the blessing. They are that. But when I am looking into a mentor or looking into somebody to mentor me, the strict rule is they have to be a minority. And if anything, minority women. Because minority women sit in a very specific space, especially Asian American women, Black women, Latina women. We all sit in our own diasporas as well. So like when you look for mentors or people that are involved in your business, it's good to look for somebody that is a resemblance of you, because they can definitely guide you through not only a cultural aspect, obviously the business aspect, but a lot of like emotional stuff too. Just because it's hard running a business, especially as a woman too.
Yeah. So, ambition or talent? Which is the most important for you?
Most important, I would say ambition, because talent, I think everybody has a little bit of talent in them. Maybe across like whatever it is, you may not see it as a talent just yet, but it can most definitely turn into talent or turn into something profitable for you. But the drive to take that talent and actually make something out of it is ambition and passion. So if you don't have the ambition part, your talent is pretty much to waste. And if you're not finding ways to use that talent for good, for profit, whatever it is that you want to do with that talent, and you don't actually take the step to do so, it's voided. Like you don't have anything to show for it, if that makes sense.
What are the goals you have now for the company in terms of what's going to happen in the future and how big do you want to get and all that?
Yeah, so we talk about this all the time, and the idea just keeps on changing just because like I said earlier, the nature of our business keeps changing. So while we are still full functioning agency, we have started subsidiaries, I would say, like just baby companies underneath that focus in on very specific topics. So like we have one called Empower Asian America. That department specifically talks about Asian American experiences in Asian American diasporas and creators in that space. So we do anything from panels, workshops. We get booked out for things pretty often, especially the coloring book was a really big deal for us within that department. And I think that would be the long-term goal, is to, I guess, the creative folks, it becomes like this holding company where it houses many smaller companies in it, tackling very specific topics or specific agendas for the creative community. And that's my biggest, ever since I started it, my biggest thing is being part of the creative community, but being a resource for them. I don't even know how to explain how can we be a resource. I just know that I have the network, I have the team, and we have the capability to do so. We just need open-minded people to partner with us on those kind of things so that we can provide more for the community, because they're severely underserved, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So if you were giving advice to an aspiring entrepreneur, and you are, there's a lot of listeners, if you're giving advice to an aspiring entrepreneur right now, what's the biggest challenge they're going to face?
Yeah. I think money would be one of the biggest things, because everybody just needs money to function, right? Like in terms of everyday life, you need that to function, but also within a business, that's an added on bill that you have to take on. I would say the biggest advice is to never be afraid of working another job and running your side hustle. It's okay for it to be a side hustle until it's ready to become a full-time job. I know that process can be long. I'm also in that journey myself, but I find a lot of joy in that, where like I have a stable career where I feel like, okay, I'm helping a lot of people because I'm in HR, but then on the side of things, I'm also doing all this community stuff. And mind you, I'm only 26 years old. So me being 26, there's a lot ahead. And with that, I feel like money can also feel like, okay, that's a big fear for me. Like I'm only 26, like I don't know where to go from here. Do I quit my job? Do I stay? There's a lot of that. And that's where I recommend it's okay, most definitely, to work a full-time job and work on your side hustle, because for some reason in the community, people just feel like, oh, it's either a full-time job or you do your business full-time. There's no in between. And I don't think that's necessarily true. And that type of mindset could definitely get you in a position where you want to quit everything you want to do. I've been there multiple times. So with that, just be patient with yourself. It's not a race, in my opinion. And granted, I'm younger, I'm 26. So to me, none of this is a race to get anywhere. I'm trying to build something very long-term in the community. I understand a lot of people may be trying to build for profit, for like their future, for comfort, etc. But I think it's a matter of like picking your cards right and making decisions and making sure that you know that there's consequences to every decision that you make. So, yeah.
So you mentioned a number of times you're a minority entrepreneur. You're part of the AAPI community. You're a female. We call this show "Beating the Odds" for a reason. As a minority entrepreneur yourself, what specific challenges have you faced that a non-minority entrepreneur might not or would not have faced?
I hate to always bring it up with money, but that's important too. So like I would group it all to being resources. So like there's in recent years too, there's been a lot of resources for minority businesses, which I really much appreciate. But when you cut it down to like specific minorities, so like Asian, Black, Latino, etc., there's a very big difference in terms of who gets the resources for what. Like the distribution is very awkwardly displaced. So that would be a challenge, especially in my own community myself, in Atlanta. I actually don't see that many Asian American owned businesses. And needless to say, across the U.S., I don't know how many Asian American owned businesses there are. I know they exist, but I know that they're not often on the map. And I attribute a lot of that going back to our culture, especially a big majority of us are immigrants. So if a big majority of our background is immigrant families, that means they probably were not encouraged to do businesses. Obviously, there's a few that are doing business like myself, but there's a big majority that are not doing businesses. So I would then tie that to like the resources. So we're not getting as many resources as maybe our counterparts, but overall, collectively, minorities are not, receiving as many resources, even if there are many out there, but they're not going to receive a lot of that stuff because our counterparts are probably going to be more successful in getting grants and getting resources or getting support for their businesses in comparison to us. So yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges for myself too. Just thinking about the resources that we've been provided in comparison to our counterparts is not the same.
Do you think that the challenges you've faced have been primarily due to the fact that you're a member of the Asian American business community, or that you're female?
if I can be fairly honest, I think it has to. Sometimes I do think it's more due to me being a woman, only because I don't know. It's just always been like even in the business spaces I enter on a daily basis, like whether it be a call or something like that, majority of them are men. So I don't see a lot of myself. Needless to say, do I see many Asian Americans? But so when you're juggling between those two diasporas and you're walking into business spaces, you don't see yourself, and there's no representation of yourself. So that presents itself as a challenge. So I would definitely have to do it to being a woman. But I also do know, and I do want to make sure other listeners know too, that there are resources for women entrepreneurs. And I hope that there will be more, after this podcast, even my part in what I do in the community, hopefully that fosters more opportunity for women in the business spaces, especially minority women. But yeah, I attribute it to that.
Perfect. So if any of our listeners need graphics design work, where can they, you got a website, an email, or a telephone, or if anybody wants to reach out and talk to you about the creative works?
Yeah. So the best way to reach out to us would be email, because we love to make sure we have a paper trail of everything and the requests and all that. So you could definitely visit us on www.thecreativefolks.org. We have a contact page there, and you can also email me directly, which is Tammy@thecreativefolks.org, and I will be happy to talk to you and set up that call.
Perfect. Any words of wisdom to close out the show? Anything to just inspire other minority entrepreneurs to give it a shot?
Yeah, I had mentioned it earlier in the interview. The biggest thing is that it's not a race, so just go at your own pace. I've been using that since I started. I try not to race other people. I know it can be very hard to compare yourself to other businesses that are online and people that may have started in the same year as you, and stuff like that. And that stuff gets super disencouraging when you see them succeed more, or whatever you perceive as success. You see them doing it better than you. But just know that it's not a race. Like we're all in this together. Like we're all reaching at some point at some ending. So like it's not a race. Just take your time and just make sure you're having fun while you're doing it.
Well, Tammy, thank you very, very much. This is fantastic. Congratulations on your success and good luck in the future. And hopefully we've inspired some more entrepreneurs today.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you for listening. We hope you were informed and inspired. Now we would like to ask a favor of you. If you could please leave us a review on the podcast platform and follow us, that would be great. And please share us with your network and help support minority business. Thank you.